Okay, we are live. Sorry about that, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Some technical difficulties. I assure you guys just doing a little check here. You can hear me and you can see me, yes? If someone can just post that in the chat group, that would be great. Okay, no problem. So can you hear and see me now? Wonderful. Welcome. Okay, so let's get started. So today, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join me here tonight at the Optical Accelerator series. If you are new, so we've been holding these monthly webinars monthly for the last since September. And so how it works is each month we will have a topic that we will be that I'll be hosting as a series and a presentation. And after today, you'll get access to a worksheet. So you'll also have some take-home action items so that you can implement what we're talking about. And so the goal here is to provide value, to help you in your clinics, and just to have a supportive community where you can come and ask questions. And so the questions you can ask will be inside the chat box. Oh, someone's saying they still can't hear or see me. Just want to make sure. And so the whole purpose is to ensure that we build a community here together. Often we're alone in our practices, and it can be a struggle where you might not be able to know what to do next. And so this is the community we want to build to be able to provide support. And then if you have any questions, we'll definitely get to those as well. So today we're going to begin our series. So we're going to begin by, let me just show you this one. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your patience. So this is the Optical Accelerator series. So today we're going to talk about building your dream optical team. So what better way than to think about this as the beginning of 2026 is essentially what I look at in January. I'm always thinking, oh, how are we going to move the needle forward this year? And when you're thinking about those best practices and how are you going to do that, you're often thinking about who is that person that's going to help me deliver my goals? Who do I need to bring on the team? And so I think that this is a really awesome topic to begin our year in 2026 with, and that's to build your dream optical team. So today we're going to talk about hiring, onboarding, and retaining at a leadership level. But before I continue, I just want to give everyone kind of an insight because you might not know who I am, what I'm about. And so my name is Dr. Fallon Patel. I'm an optometrist. And what people know me for today is that I have 5 thriving locations with over 50 employees. And I've also started a SaaS tech company called Pulse IQ Solutions. So what people know me for is the success that they might see me as for today. But what they don't know is that there was a time when I actually struggled. I struggled a lot. And it probably was right before COVID. Before COVID hit, I had one practice and I had maybe 6 employees. And I remember cash flow stopped, right? Revenue stopped. Sorry, not cash flow. Revenue stopped. And payroll was still due. And I remember not having the funds to be able to make payroll. And that's when I realized I had a cash flow problem. And I remember asking my husband for help to borrow money to make that payroll. And I just told myself, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to get help. I started to read books and I slowly got myself out of that. And the reason why I share that is we as healthcare practitioners, opticians, optometrists, we have a tendency, we love our craft. So we focus on providing the best patient experience, the best customer service. But the problem is we all get thrown into this business world, right? We all end up having our individual small businesses. And what does that mean when we're running a small business? We have problems like you got to deal with hiring. Well, not problems, but it's part of the small business. So hiring, sales, marketing, finances, cash flow, leadership. So there's all these things and skills that we just we kind of ignore it because it's not something we went to school for, right? But we all have to experience this in our day-to-day. And I remember wishing, and have you ever had a tendency to, or a wish to, have you ever thought, So-and-so has this amazing practice down the street or in a rural town in Ontario. So I'm from Ontario, Canada. I saw my girlfriend's doing really, really well. And I always wished for myself, man, why can't that be for me? Why can't I have those fancy tools? I remember wanting an OCT so badly back in the day and wanting all these fancy gadgets and tools and technology that I can bring to my patients. And why can't that be for me? Well, fast forward to today, that has happened. And the reason why I share that is that I know that whatever it is that you're wishing or your desire is for you to, your dreams for your practice, it can be there too. But it relies on a few strategies, a few things that you have to learn along the way slowly. And over time, you'll be able to build that momentum and really be successful. And so I'm here to tell you it's very much possible. And so that's a little bit about my history. So let's get started with our presentation today. Okay, so here's the problem when we're talking about hiring. If your optical only runs well when you're on the floor, you don't have a staffing problem. You actually have a leadership systems gap. Okay, and what I mean by this is that, and why this matters, is because you will have inconsistent sales, likely month to month. When you have new hires, they'll struggle to gain traction, right? How many of us have those new hires and we're always like, oh, rolling our eyes, or we're unhappy, we're thinking they're not meeting the goals and we don't know what to do. How many of us have employees that are resistant to change, right? There's some new revenue stream you want to bring to the practice and you're dealing with mindsets that you have to change and people are just resistant. How many of us have like that performance dependence on one rock star, right? Everything depends on that one person. When they're gone, business falls flat. So this is where growth becomes fragile because we don't have a strong team, or we don't have our dream team. And so the truth is that your optical will never outgrow the strength, consistency, and mindset of the people running it. So we have to make sure we have the right mindset and views and perspectives on our practices. And what does that mean? So we have to have a shift, right? You have to change your mindset from, if I want this dream team and I want to be able to have it be self-sufficient, I want to take a vacation and not have, the walls come down, not have to burn out fires. We have to ourselves have that mindset shift from managing staff to intentionally building a performance-driven team leadership. And this will replace luck, right? So we're not just hoping for the best. We built it. We know we're expecting the results are going to continue. The business is going to drive forward when you step away. That's what we need to have in our minds, right? All right, so I'm going to keep going while I have the chat group open. Perfect. Okay, and so this is why really optical teams plateau. So most practices, and it's all in the hiring strategy if you think about it, because most of us, and I did this mistake in the beginning too, is I'd ask availability. So we'd hire based on availability first, right? We train through informal shadowing. Just go follow Susie. She's going to teach you the ropes. And we just hope people kind of just figure it out along the way, right? But the difference between that and a high performing practice is you learn how to hire intentionally for that role. You learn how to train systematically, right? So that everyone is getting the same consistent training. And you learn how to reinforce behaviors consistently so that it's an evolving progress for your employee. And this is where that difference is when we're hiring. You hear about it, but really you got to really apply it, because sometimes we still fall into this loop in our practice too, is experience versus behavior. You get a resume that comes in, and this actually just happened to us in our practice this week. Someone had worked at another clinic for about a year or two and was just there about 3 months ago, and now has applied for a position with us. Came on, lovely girl, said everything perfect to us on interview, had great communication skills. And the experience is really what we kind of hired her on. However, anytime we applied or we taught her something new in the clinic, or she just didn't know how to take that and move forward. So anytime we taught her something, it's like she forgot and she wasn't applying it. And it was over several training days and she just was not getting it. So this is where you run into that trouble. You know, what do you do, right? And this is where hiring on experience is really flawed. And I know you guys have all been there, but just keep this as kind of like your forefront when you're screening your resumes. Experience versus behavior. So experience is helpful, but it's the behavior that's decisive, right? So optical success, what we're really looking for is not really experience. It's communication. It's emotional intelligence. It's adaptability. It's consistent energy and how do they deal under pressure, right? Because those are the times that frustrate us when we have new hires or employees that are just not cutting it. And it's because we didn't follow this when we were hiring them. And so when we shift to behavioral hiring from experience hiring, you know, now you're hiring for how people think, how they react, how they solve problems, and how they show up under stress. So it's not just what they've done before, right? Like you hear, if anyone follows Dan Martell on social media, he always says he doesn't even care what university somebody went to, right? He's just hiring based on what they can do. He interviews them and he says often his engineers don't even have a degree background. They're self-taught. It's what are you willing to do? Are you willing to figure out? Are you willing to problem solve and figure out solutions to how we're going to move our business forward? So just keep that in mind, okay? So it's not just what they've done before. Past experience tells you where they've been, but the behavior on the interview can tell you how they'll perform, especially in your optical. And the rule of behavioral hiring. So we need to ask for real life examples, not hypotheticals, right? So when you're prompting and asking them questions, you want to know how they acted in a previous scenario, not what the right answer, the hypothetical answer might be. You also want to listen for patterns. So you don't want, when someone's giving you all those perfect scripted answers and they're making your ears sing, you know, kind of a red flag that I just mentioned. I just went through a hire like that who we actually had to not continue employment with, but these are kind of the early red flags that you can save yourself some additional headache and time. So you are not grading the story, right? You're just observing their mindset, their ownership, and their adaptability. And so we can, again, this is going to be in your handout, but when you're hiring someone, I thought I'd break it down into some questions for you so it'd be easy and some actionable insights you can have for your next hire. So when we're looking at core behaviors, you want to look at how they are in handling difficulty and emotional intelligence. So again, you're not grading the story, you're observing mindset, ownership, and adaptability. So here's a great question you can ask them. A question on your interview process can be, tell me a little bit about a difficult patient or customer interaction you've had. And just listen, right? But what you're listening for in their answer is, you know, did they take ownership over that difficult situation or did they blame others? If they blame the patient or, you know, not having good support at work or, you know, that's already kind of a red flag, right? You really want someone who is solution orientated and takes ownership and gives you a way that they manage the situation. Did they deal with conflict resolution? Were they listening? Were they empathetic? These are the things you want to hear. Did they stay calm under pressure, right? And do they show empathy in problem solving? So you want to listen for these three things. You can have it as a checklist on that interview process and make notes while they're answering these for you. So red flags are obvious when, you know, an individual will respond and with that scenario and say, oh, yes, you know, this person was so hard to deal with, but they were honestly impossible. You know, that's a red flag because that means that they're not willing to try, find a solution to the scenario. And it's just shifting blame, right? A green flag would be, you know, how that person shifted to a difficult situation. Did they adjust? Did they adjust their approach and did they find a solution for that person? So sometimes I give a question and I say, okay, if they don't have a difficult experience, sometimes I'll say, okay, let's say, and this happens all the time in our clinic, we like to pre-bill for patients. We like to check insurance for them. So we do that as a courtesy in our practice. And oftentimes it doesn't go through, right? Now the patient's upset because they're expecting that we can bill for their insurance. And for whatever reason, it's because of their insurance, something's not going through. It may not be our fault, right? So I asked the candidate, how would you handle that? And so I just see how they problem solve, what kind of steps in their creative mind can they come up with to better mitigate the situation. So there's another question you can ask. So core behavioral questions, handling difficulty, and emotional intelligence. The next question is figuring out their learning speed and whether they're coachable. So here's a good question to ask. You can ask them, tell me about a time you had to learn something complex quickly. So here you're looking for, or you're listening for, how do they approach the learning? Willingness to ask questions, right? And comfort being uncomfortable at first, right? So these are really, really important traits, asking questions. You know, as an owner, I hate when people don't ask me questions and they're just like, yes, 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 because then I know they're not registering. And if there is a problem, I'm not going to know about it. And my job at the end of the day is solving problems and learning about all the problems in our clinics, right? And so you want people to be able to ask questions. You want people to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because in this role, in this industry, there's a lot of innovation, a lot of change, and we want them to, you know, stretch themselves so that they can grow and be okay with that, be okay with feedback, positive and negative, right? For the betterment of their career growth. And so why does this matter in opticals, right? So as I mentioned, you know, learning never stops. There's new lens designs, there's coatings, there's workflow, there's scripts, there's so much that I feel every week we're throwing new things at our team, something new, right? Something new that's come up. And we have to be able to understand that the learning and change never stops. And so these traits are very important as well. The next question you can ask is for problem solving without a script. So you can ask them, tell me a little bit about a time something didn't go as planned and what did you do, right? Because this happens every day. So what you're listening for here is, do they freeze, right? Or did they adapt, right? How does someone respond to a stressful situation? Do they just kind of just throw up the white flag, or are they okay? And, you know, are they able to overcome that? Do they wait for direction? Right? Or do they take initiative, right? In this scenario, you know, I've had a lot of situations where there's a problem in the clinic, technology is not working. Get it all the time. And especially new hires or new doctors. Oh, Dr. Patel, they ping me quickly. This machine's not working. What do I do? Okay. Did you plug out all the wires from the machine? Okay. Did you check if the light bulb is, you know, on or off? Like, you have to take them through step by steps, but it would be wonderful. Like, and there are some people on our team that take initiative and they go through all of that before even contacting me. So that's what I appreciate, right? Do they take initiative to problem solve, or are they just quickly pinging you for every problem? Do they reflect and do they improve? So let's say there is a scenario that they tried everything, they didn't know how to do that, and you're teaching them. Did they take those steps the next time, right? Did they, okay, I listened to you, Dr. Patel, the first time. I'm going to unplug it. I checked this. It's still not working. Okay. Like, I like that they're taking the steps to problem solve and find a solution before always just contacting me, right? And so this can reveal how someone thinks on their feet, especially when the optical gets busy. That's another one too. Often, you know, we'll have like 6 walk-ins just come in at the same time, right? We're in shopping malls, so this is the nature of our day. And so for us, this is very, very important, is how do you manage high stress situations? Because it's phone calls ringing. I'm sure you all get that, like a million phone calls ringing, or somebody's at the door, or this person's here. Like, how do you manage that situation? And so you're looking to see what their answers, how did they respond when something doesn't go as planned? What did they do? The next question here is showing up under stress. So the question to ask is to describe a high pressure or busy day at work. How did you handle it? And this is what I was discussing, more of like the walk-ins and the people coming in. Here you're listening for a response that will have some emotional regulation, energy under stress, team mindset versus survival mode, right? So, and we've had employees like this in the past where, you know, it's just one task at a time and they couldn't handle, let's say if somebody's there's 3 walk-ins, there's this person here, the phone's ringing, they just stress out. And when they stress out, their communication drops. It shows, it's impacting the patient experience and the patient journey. Not a good thing, right? And then we have to kind of place this individual in slower days, not our busy Saturdays. And it's just not a good fit, right? Because that's the nature of our practice. So you always want to try to gauge these by asking these questions ahead of time. It can save you a lot of headache. So to describe a high pressure or busy day at work, how did you handle it? And really the reality check is, we don't need more experience. We need to make sure people know how to handle this, and we need steadiness, right? Someone to keep the flow going, not just put up the white flag. The next question here is for accountability and growth. So the question here you'd want to ask is, tell me about a mistake you made at work and what did you learn from it? So here you're listening for, can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, not too sure. This might have turned off. Okay. Can everybody still hear me? If you can't hear me, please let me know. Someone give me a yes, thumbs up, they can hear me. Yes, perfect. Okay, so here's another question to ask under those behavioral questions. So for accountability and growth, tell me about a mistake you've made at work and what you learned from. So here you're listening for whether that individual has taken ownership, if they're self-aware, or if their growth mindset. And so why this matters is that, you don't really want to have someone on your team who thinks that everything that they're perfect, right? We're not perfect. We're all here to learn and grow. And so we're going to have challenges. We're going to make mistakes. That's the only way we can grow. And so we want to know that when they faced a situation, did they take ownership? Did they admit, I could have done this better? Are they self-aware, right? Because if someone is coming into the practice and they just think that they never make mistakes, not a good trait, because then how is that person ever going to grow and develop? If they think they're perfect, how are you going to get them to grow? And so these are important things. And this is all ties down to growth mindset, right? Because our job as leaders is to make sure that we are unblocking ways for people to grow. And I just want to share another quote here by Mr. Dan Martell. And I just learned this recently, and it really was an aha moment where, your job as a leader is to unlock potential and growth of your teammates. And you have to have the mindset that people, they don't work for you. You work for the people. You work for your team. So if you think that your team should work for you, that's often when you start to get angry, you start to get upset, you get annoyed with people in your team. It's because you have an expectation that people should be working for you. But really, it's our jobs to uncover roadblocks for our team members so we can elevate them and help them grow throughout the journey with us in our clinics. So I thought that was a really good quote. And I think when it comes down to it, when you've followed all these hiring principles and it is the right hire, just to always have that perspective, right? And so strong candidates, they don't avoid mistakes, they extract lessons. Now, I also have this bonus question that I came across through some of my coaching that I've done. And so this was a great hiring question that I learned, and it kind of stumps people. So then I asked this question. So I say, if we're sitting down together 3 months from now and decided this was not going to work out, why do you think the reason might be? It's kind of awkward, right? It has a lot of tension, kind of makes somebody feel uncomfortable. But you'll see how they respond, and it's going to tell you exactly their weakness and why things might not turn out. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to hire that person. I mean, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, or, a flawed trait that we need to work on. But it'll tell you whether that person's right for that role, right? Like, so for example, let's say you're hiring for a technical role, right? Like an operations or a tech. And then all of a sudden their flaws, like, I'm not really good. I don't really like being a salesperson. Okay, great. That's fine. You're in a technical role, right? So it might work well. But if this is a salesperson, a role, and then they tell you, oh, I wasn't that good at my, hitting my goals or targets. Okay. You probably don't want to hire this person for that role, right? So it kind of gives you more insights, and it can really just kind of cut through When it comes down to that intuitive judgment, yes or no, you'll kind of have an idea. So this is a good question. All right, so the cost of poor hiring. So hiring the wrong behavior, it ultimately leads to constant oversight. You're often micromanaging these people. Inconsistent patient experience, hate that, where we have a rock star employee, no rock star employee, and the service level is all over the place. And it also leads to leadership burnout. So meaning like your leaders get frustrated, and often your A players. So when we want to bring on, when we're talking about hires and we want to hire a lot more A players, right? You've heard this terminology. So what happens when you get these superstars and these A tier players on your team and you start tolerating B or C players? What do you think will happen? It burns out those A players and they'll probably leave. And so if you're having a problem where you're having good staff kind of turning over, people that you don't want to leave or leaving, you may want to consider, maybe I have some employees on my team that are toxic in behavior or are not really cutting the weight, and I'm allowing that to happen. So when you start to allow mediocrity or underperforming and you just kind of let it slide and you don't do anything about it, you're going to lose your top performers. So that's where that leadership burnout really is a reality. So hiring the right behavior really creates leverage, right? Your team can move, your business can soar, and I really think it's dependent on the people that you have on your team. So the onboarding reality. So we're going to go to onboarding. So now that we've talked about hiring and we went through those hiring questions, again, this is going to be on a handout for you, so you'll have that. Think about your onboarding. So what does onboarding like? When you have a new employee, are you throwing them into a stressed out situation? We didn't put this on the chart here, but that happens too. Like when you're understaffed, sometimes you throw somebody in and they're, working 6 days a week, working with this horrible employee, we're trying to solve things. What does your onboarding experience look like? Is the onboarding random? Because when it's random, you're going to get random results, right? You're not going to get consistency. And so when you have a process, you can have clarity, and clarity will create confidence, right, in that individual and that new hire. And that confidence will then create better performance. So always think about that. We're always very mindful when we have new employees. We try to put them in a good environment to train. And then we slowly integrate them. If there's a challenging spot we need to put them into, we kind of give them the heads up, we give them support, and we try to make sure our training is consistent. And so this is a framework that you can have. And so when you have a new employee and you're thinking about the onboarding process, you can think of it in terms of a 30, 60, 90-day program or plan, or the ramp up, right? So you're kind of thinking 30 is crawl, 60 is walk, and 90 is run, right? By the end of this, you want that employee to be jumping off the ground, ready to go. And to do this, you need to have a structured path. So here are some things that you can consider. So from the first 0 to 30 days, when that new employee is onboarding, it's really the foundation, right? You're building the foundation, the knowledge. You're getting them to understand all the materials, your lens options, pre-test equipment, communication standards and etiquette, and you're introducing them to KPIs, metrics that matter in your business, right? And from this, we have modules, we have training modules, SOP binders, whatever you have in your clinic. If you don't have anything yet, Chat GPT, I use this a lot, AI or Claude, or, you can say anything you want into it and it can automatically build out that for you, and you can edit it as you go along. But make sure you have something that's structured and written so that everybody is following the same kind of template, the same checkpoints. We like to assign certain people on our team to do the training, and it's either 1 or 2 people that train, and we keep it that way because we know that person has trained every new hire and they know how they've trained that person. So now when they go off, that training and that consistency is the same. And so the goal of the first 30 days when you're training them is to really have the individual be able to support patients comfortably with guidance, right? You want to give them all the basic foundation so they can start talking to patients in your practice. The next is the 30 to 60 day. So this is when they start to walk, right? They start to walk, they're getting independence. And so the focus here should be, the individual should be leading consultations on their own. So having that conversation with the patient without any help. They should understand now kind of like your packages. So like your good, better, best presentations, or they should know how to convey this to patients. So we have top tier quality programs that we like our patients to know about, or diagnostic services. They should be comfortable with this. And they should also get familiar now with tracking their personal goals. So if a leader has set some goals or numbers for them, they should get comfortable understanding what that is and try to start create a foundation and a benchmark, a baseline that they can start looking at those numbers so that they have something to work towards. And the goal here for this employee is you want to make sure that they're understanding how communication drives outcomes. So how well are they conveying all of the training and knowledge that you've taught them to patients? So that is the outcome when they start to walk. Then the 60 to 90 day is the ownership, and they start to run with it. So this is when they should, if you have, multi-pair performance, if you're tracking AR or diagnostics, they should have consistency and strong acumen and knowing how to, and confidence and knowing how to recommend these solutions for your patients and really provide that branded patient experience. So the goal here is to shift from that new hire to a reliable performer. So now you have this employee who's well-trained by the end of 90 days, and you should be able to put them in anywhere at any given shift, and they should be able to have full ownership of your practice and your patients. So why this works. So now we've created structure, right? So it removes guesswork. So you don't know if, did Susie train Sarah this or no? Like that person can't now say, oh, so-and-so didn't train me. No, like there's accountability now, right? Because there's structure and there's a methodology in how we're training. It removes inconsistencies. Now everybody's having the same training. And it also removes emotional decision-making. So you have metrics, you're tying your goals to, you have documents that are structured. So now you're not kind of, making decisions out of emotion, you're making them out of facts and data. And it's always easier to do these, have these business discussions with people. So your performance becomes a lot more predictable. And now we're going to talk about retaining employees. So how do you get them engaged and motivated? So we talked about hiring. We talked about what does that onboarding process look like? Now we're talking about how do we keep them engaged, right? Because people that come on into your practice, they want to consistently grow, right? You don't want to have people that are coming in just checking in and checking out, just a paycheck, checking in and clocking out for hours. That is, not the behavior that we're hoping to have. We want to make sure that that we are training for the behavior of performance driven. And so you can use incentives as a strategy here. This is something that I use in our clinics, and we compensate and we reinforce it as well. And so here are some strategies that you can do as well if you're not doing them already. You can reward incentives based on daily consistency, growth behaviors, and of course that leadership mindset. So not just those clocking in and out hours. And so when we're talking about those 3 layers of incentives, this can get, I feel like for me, this got a little heavy. If you're thinking about this and you don't have this in place, don't worry. I would just recommend take a screenshot of this, or when you get the worksheet, just take a picture of it and upload it into AI, ChatGPT, tell them about your practice, and it will formulate the plans for you. So this is where I feel people get stuck and they don't implement because it just gets a little overwhelming. And I can tell you for the longest time, we just ran with baseline incentives. So for a year or so, only recently did we add in different incentives along the way and leadership incentives. So it's okay if you start somewhere, but it's going to be amazing if you can, because you're going to see really good growth and results. So the first level is to have baseline incentives, which focuses on consistency. So this is designed to ensure that team members maintain steady level of performance and adhere to established standards. So this might be like your patient count, exam count, You want to have like a 10% growth over last year, or 5%, whatever your goals are. You may want to have recalls. You might want to talk about so that patient retention. You may want to talk about, so think about the things every day that you want your employees to do, and that you need to have at least a baseline, right? What matters? And when they're able to produce that, that's where the incentive can tie in. And so you can tie in and establish them weekly, monthly. We pay out monthly on these. And so these are our baseline incentives. The second level is accelerators, so which are designed to build momentum. So these incentives rewards team members for exceeding expectations and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So let's say if you just have a team goal, they meet their goal. Like if you had a baseline incentive, exams, they meet their goal 30. What if somebody meets that in a week? Okay, they're not going to perform for the rest of the 3 weeks, right, of the month. So how can you establish this so that they're building momentum, and for those super performers that they can run with it? And so this is where you can have kind of tiered systems. And we did this where, let's say we had a location, they met their goal. One of the locations met their goals early this month. Okay, we were just talking about it. Well, what are they going to do this week? Are they going to continue going for it, or are they just going to, right, in their behaviors? But no, because they have individual goals now. So they met their team goal, but then they have individual as well. So if they individually perform in a certain hierarchy or rank, they get even more. So we kind of have goal setting that way. It keeps the individual performing, and that way at the end of the full month, they're keeping the gas on the pedal, because we don't want to see that high and drop, right? The whole point of this program is to layer it so that it's just consistent. So that's the accelerator, so to build momentum. The third level is top tier rewards, which are given to those who demonstrate leadership and loyalty. So these rewards recognize individuals who have made significant contributions to the team and have consistently gone above and beyond. So this is where I have leaders on my team. So when I'm thinking of doing these things, I try to bring on the best person I think for that role. I give them a leadership position, and then we goal them and we give them incentives based on their results. So some of these might be monthly if it's a sales role, quarterly if it's an operational role, and so forth. So I know this is a little heavy, so if you have any questions, let me know after. But again, doesn't have to be perfect. You can get going with the baseline incentive or anything and just reiterate, right? Just know that when you're rolling this out with your team, that you always set the expectation. Performance-based or bonuses can change at any time, right? So it's dependent on the nature of the business and how it's working. So if it's not working, they'll be removed. We'll think of something else. But always think ahead, because when you remove it, it can be a problem too. So just think ahead and make sure that you are planning those steps to know that there is going to be some allocated funds for performance. We'll figure out what's working well. If it's not, we got to get some training. Or if it's not, we got to bring on the right person. So it is a work in progress, but it does work. When you have the right team and you've hired the right people and they're all in the right seats, it works phenomenally well. All right. So what incentives do right? So they increase engagement. They create accountability. They retain strong performers, and they reduce micromanagement, right? Like when I bring on leaders, it's so great when you have good leaders, they just run with it. They make your life easy. You just feel like you can relax, and the business is growing without you, right? It doesn't ever grow. Like there has to be accountability to you at the end of the day. Everyone is performing. We all have accountability to somebody, but it doesn't mean that it needs your constant oversight. So the leadership level impact with the right system, really sales stabilize, the patient experience is consistent, the team becomes self-sufficient, and you step out of the daily firefighting, which is very true. And so the end result of all this is you have reduced dependency. The new optical system reduces dependency on constant presence, so no longer depends on your constant presence. And enables the new system runs on systems, standards, and leadership. Remember, so our job is always to, when you give your employees, you don't tell them how to do something, You tell them what result you're looking for, what your goals are, and they figure out how to help you get to your goal. And then when they get stuck or they have questions, you help them, enable them to get through those roadblocks. So that's what leadership or good leadership or what our job should be like and what our ideal day should be like. And so here I'm going to talk a little bit about that software that I created. So it's called Pulse IQ Solutions. And it's based on all this stuff that I talk about. So it was solving the headache of inconsistencies, reports, our team not knowing their daily goals, training, team engagement. So I created a software to solve for that. And so thank you for those who have signed up. I just looked at the list today and I appreciate you all. And so we'll be reaching out to you soon. We're still heading in beta. And as soon as we get a couple of the little problems solved in terms of the tech, we will reach out to you. So what this solution is, it's a tool that makes things easy. It has practical training. So we have videos in there that are role-based. So different tracks for your front desk, different tracks for your assistant managers, optometric assistants, different tracks for your opticians, optometrists, managers, and owners. So there's different learning modules in here, and they're all 3 to 5 minutes long. Hello. And it also has a question, multiple choice worksheets, and it's AI assisted. So when you don't know where your business is falling flat, the AI will actually pull and analyze your numbers and tell you what you can do next. So it can really just be more of an instant tool to guide you. So it's not relying on you per se. You can be removed as the bottleneck, but it can be self-sustaining. So your manager can run with it, your front desk can run with it, and they'll be able to problem solve and troubleshoot without coming to you. So it takes the guessing out and it gives you clear goals and accountability. So this is the tool that we'll be using. And so here, these are the videos that we have. For example, we have so many topics and we just keep building on this. But it's, anything that you can think of, all the little things like how do you answer a phone call? How do you greet a customer? What is appropriate, way to build rapport? Like these little things that no one's ever taught, but it's important to be trained is all built inside here. Little things like how do you troubleshoot when you don't get a good test result on the lensometry or the pressure test, what's normal, what's not normal, how do you troubleshoot? So all that's in there as well. And if you're wanting to give it a try, give me some feedback. I would love for that. You can scan this QR code. It's also on your worksheet and you can sign up and we will reach out to you so that you can try the platform and give us your feedback as well. So some final thoughts. So you don't need more effort. You really need better structure. Leadership builds teams and your teams build scalable practices. So our goals as leaders is you can't do it alone. You have to do it with the team. And that is our main job as well, is to build that amazing dream team and let your team help you scale your practice. And, if you want repeatable performance, confident teams, sustainable growth, you need to start leading your optical and not managing it, right? That's the key difference. And so I'm going to open it up for some questions. Please, in the chat group, if there's any burning questions you have, feel free to type it in there. I'd be happy to answer. I mean, I think when I think of HR and hiring, I think this is like the number one thing people hate in running the practice. It is the number one energy drainer. So whenever I talk to people, optometrists, opticians, ophthalmologists, they all hate this part. And they just don't want to manage it. They just want to focus on their craft, seeing patients, surgeries, fitting glasses. But this is a key element, right? That can make your sanity so much better. And I think it all comes down to who are the people that you're bringing on your team? Are they aligning with your vision? Are they the right people? And if you do your due diligence in the hiring process, as they say, you hire slow, you fire fast. It is very true. It can go a long way. And always to not settle too, right? So then there's people that stay on in the company and they restrict your growth. You have to make changes. You have to consistently, your job is always to hire and always be on a lookout for good talent. I feel like that's my job. I've never done hiring. I'm always looking. And that's the key is we can't feel like it's done. And then it's like that forever. It's just not how a top performing team will move. Okay, we have a question. So last time that we would receive the worksheets and the webinars by email, but I never see. Oh, okay. I'll have Samantha resend them out again, the last ones too. And if you have any questions on the next one, we can do that as well. So hopefully I'll ping Samantha because I know she said everyone's appearing as her name on the list. So Samantha Budd is Nick's operations go-to. And so she does a lot of the back end stuff here, got us the webinar today, all working and going. And she helps us with all of the communication and sheets and the video recording. So she'll help you access that. All this gets posted on YouTube, so you'll get the link and then you'll get the worksheets as well. So make sure she gets that. Yeah. So just know we're all here together. We're all here to support one another. I know, like for me, for the longest time, I felt like I was kind of on my own trying to figure this out, and I didn't do very well on my own. And, you know, when you have a good team and you have people you can talk to is when you kind of start building momentum and going forward. So awesome. Any other questions? I know this isn't the fun stuff, but it's important. The HR stuff. I'm curious, does anybody have like an HR like lead or an HR person in their organization? Or how do they handle it? Or is it them? Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You know, I've heard people have, like, if you're part of buying groups, I've heard that you can get HR support as well. But really, that's the kind of stuff when you run into, you know, okay, this person and what are they entitled to? What are, you know, that kind of stuff. That's a little bit different, I think, than you can talk to an advisor or an employment lawyer. But in terms of hiring and getting your right team built together and getting them off the ground, and I think this is really important. And I think this is something easy we can all just kind of at least follow and start to get some better leads. Oh, you're welcome, Taba. I hope I said your name right. The worksheets are there too. So again, the point of these webinars, and we'll close it up in a minute or two. The point of these webinars are we'll present some topics together each month. I write an article in the Optical Prism magazine about it. That same article, we'll do a webinar on here. And then after, you'll get a worksheet. And then next month, here, we're going to talk about the next time we're going to meet. Our next meeting is going to be on February 24th. The topic's going to be Train for Growth now. So how do you turn that employee, every member, into a sales champion? So it's not just sales, it's operations too. However, we want every person on your employee aligned to your pillars of growth. And so how do you turn every one of those staff members into one? And so that's going to be the next topic on February 24th at 7 o'clock. So feel free, you can come then with some questions, and we'll begin the webinar with questions first about this topic today, and then we can move on to the next one. What was discussed? Yeah, so I have an amazing team, staff members who I've kind of delegated to. And so my amazing operations lead, I didn't even train or see the person. Like, I trust them so much. I've worked with them for many years now. So she made the decision. So she just said, you know, this isn't working out. The training wasn't working out for us in terms of the application. And so we're not going to continue. How did that transfer? When it's done quickly, like she maybe had 6 training days with us. If it's done quickly, it's okay. I mean, yeah, it's not as hard when they're new. It's harder when people have been along with you for a long time. And then you have to have, those are harder because then it gets more like relationship and you're really ending a relationship. Those are harder to have. But is there a PG credit for this? I don't know what PG means. Is this considered a credit? No, none of this is. I should probably try to get this certified. I work with, so I also do presentations with Ali at AOE, and he somehow gets all of my stuff certified. I can try, but this isn't for that. It's more just, you know, business tools that you can have to take home. But I can try to figure that out. Yeah, it's a good question because I'm not an optician, but I know that you could have different credits for yourself. So that could be handy. I think for optometry, it has to go through a completely different accreditation portal. Okay, so unless there's any other questions, I'm so happy. Mostly everybody stayed on today. I appreciate you all. I was so excited to see so many people come on. I mean, if you love this, I'm here for you. I'll continue to do this. It really makes me feel great. Any feedback, anything you want to see done differently, send us an email back. Any questions, feel free to email me. I've emailed you all, and then let me know. No, there's no credit. This is self-learning. This is just a free webinar for self-learning. So no credit. But maybe you can reach out to, self-directed credit. Yeah, no idea. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Stay warm. Take care.